Hello folks, it's Rob, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we're continuing with our education program. We're going to go into something a little more advanced than we were last time, but at the same time I have opened this up in the career mode, so I can show you some of the concepts involved there and how that plays out, if you haven't been watching any of the other videos. And also, I feel you can get more out of what I'm going to be doing if you actually see it happening. So, here we have the Science Center, and as you can see, I've already unlocked the first stage of science, basic rocketry, which allows us to have a few more components, including the stack decoupler, which is important because it helps us make better designs. I currently have no missions out there, and but let's see. We'll take you into the Kerbal Management Office here, and as you can see, we have three Kermans. We have Jebediah, Bill, and Bob. And those are our basics. And here we have a selection of Kermans available for hire. So if we wanted to bring in somebody else or replace somebody, we can. If we have people out there on missions, they're assigned, and if people are lost, they're lost, and they go in that tab. So, if you want to hire a Kerman, all you do is just click the green check mark, and that's it. At the moment, there's no costs involved for using components or hiring Kermans or anything like that. So, at the moment, you have an unlimited budget, effectively. The only thing that you're managing in campaign mode at the moment is the actual unlocking of items. So, let's build a robot. A rocket. Not a robot. I'd love to build a robot, but no, this is going to be a rocket. And what we have here is our cockpit, and we're going to add a stack decoupler below that, so I can detach the cockpit from the rest of the rocket after I'm done with it. That'll help with returning from space, because then we won't have to worry about the weight of this compartment very much. I am going to attach to it our mystery goo containment unit, which I'm just going to strap back here, and a communicatron, which allows us to beam back information we might obtain. And I'm just going to stick it right there on the side, because why not? Right, so that's our basic capsule, and just as a tip, if you'd like to not have to keep making things over and over again, you could just save this right now, okay? And now every time, if you know you want this on top of every rocket, all you need to do is load up Capsule 1, and then you can start building the rest of the rocket. Another handy thing is what we call subassemblies. So, let's say here we have this fuel tank, right, and this rocket, okay? And let's say we know we're going to need to use that often. You can just drop this here, like so. Name it. Put a description if you want. That's up to you. And now if I need that, I can just click that, here it is, and I can attach it on. As you can see, I've already made one of these. So let's see, we'll just add a separator, a decoupler here, and I will now use that, and bam, as you can see, I now have this array of solid fuel boosters. Now I don't have any radial decouplers, so what I've done here is I've attached these to the sides of this one central item. This is going to be for our initial thrust. Then we'll have this one engage. Then we'll have liquid fuel. Right? Now, as you can see over here on the side, we have the 3 and the 1 on the same stage, but they're in different sections. These will all fire at the same time. Here we have our decoupler. Here we have our next solid stage. Here we have our next decoupler. Here we have our liquid stage. Here we have the decoupler, and then here we have our final parachute. Now, as you can see, because of the way we've built this, it's assigned everything in the right place. But if you need to move these around for some reason, let's say, for example, I stick a solid fuel booster right here, right? Let's say I put 2 of these right here, and I want them to be able to fire. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Come on, lock in. Lock in. You need enough space to lock something in like this, and it's difficult without couplers and things. Well, okay. There. No. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's say, see how this is up here? Now, these are up here with the liquid fuel stage, and that's fine as far as that goes. That means these won't fire until I engage this liquid fuel stage way later. But I'm also boosting all this solid fuel into space, or into high orbit, or into atmosphere, wherever it ends up going. What if I wanted to engage these at the same time I engage these? Well, I just grab this, you can see it expands, I just pick up the whole bunch, and I move them down. Okay? And now they're part of this stage, and they'll fire at the same time as the other ones. But I don't want that on there. That's really way too much. In fact, what I will do is I was thinking I might like to have a bit more fuel on this thing. On the top stage. There we go. Now, if you find you want to edit the item, always grab for the basically below the point that you want to leave behind. So, like, I want to leave this separate this decoupler on here. I just grab the tank below it. If I want to pull it off at the decoupler, I grab the decoupler. Okay. Right. So here we have our basic rocket, and we can name it wherever we want. And that's it. I've just called it First Rocket. Woo. As you can see, we don't have a lot of other components going on at the moment, but, you know, this will change over time as we gather science. Now, if I want to save this as First Rocket, I just click this gray button here and save. If later on I want to load, I just click this orange one here. It says load, and you can see here we have Rob's first orbiter and things like that. And we can now move this out to the launch stage if we want to, or if for some reason we want to start an entirely new rocket, just press this kind of aqua button here for a new rocket, and it will clear the vehicle assembly building, and we get a clean slate. Okay? But let's load the rocket back in. As you can see, there it is. Now, you're mainly wondering, how did I move up and down like this? This is the mouse wheel I'm using. I am rolling the mouse wheel, and I am clicking down on the mouse wheel to pull the camera back and forth like this. Okay? And that can be very useful as your designs get quite large. Or maybe because you want to mount a very small component somewhere, or there's some intricate bit of structuring you're trying to do. Okay? Otherwise, I'm holding down the right click, and I'm rotating my view. Now, let's go and take her out. Okay, so as you can see, it's a fairly lightweight rocket. It sits rather firmly on these solid fuel boosters, and that's fine. It's not going to explode right away or fall over, and that's all very nice. At the moment, we're still gathering science from things like crew reports and things, because we just started out. So you right-click on the capsule, and you can get a crew report right now, and it's worth 0.6 science, but you can beam that back immediately for 0.6 science. Which, I mean, yeah, it's not worth that much, but it's something to start with. And you can see the rocket is rocking, swaying very slightly. We turn on the stabilizer by hitting T. This activates the gyros. This will help us from kind of angling away after we launch. And I like to make sure that the thrusters are at least at something before we take off. Even though I'm on a solid fuel stage at the moment, it's not necessary. You could totally do this later if you want. But I like to make sure that the thrusters are throttled up, that way I don't forget about them later on when we do finally get to the liquid fuel stage. Now, as you can see, when we beamed that report back, it used up an awful lot of electric power. And we're not going to get any more electric power into the system until we activate our liquid fuel engine at the moment, because we have no other way of restoring power to the systems. And Jebediah looks a bit anxious and ready to go, so let's get this going. Now, here we have our control ball. It is pointed straight up at the moment. Just think of this as a kind of a globe, okay? This is a 2D representation of a 3D thing. So at the moment it is pointed straight up. So think of this as the absolute top of your globe, right? And there we go. This end down here is the absolute south pole of your globe, okay? So this 90 degrees here is kind of like over here. And this 270? Yeah, it'd be over here, okay? And east, west, those are off way here at the 180 and opposite. Okay? So, right. Now, if we're going to get more into that in a moment when we launch, but I thought we'd get you familiar with this to start with. By pressing Q and E, we can rotate the rocket potentially in the air, and this will rotate the entire globe. Okay. Also, WASD will change our orientation, and it can get complicated to keep track of where you are. The easiest thing I find is to try to keep things oriented towards this north-south kind of orientation that we're on at the moment where we started. And know that this 90 is to the east. That's very handy for our orbital dynamics. Right, so let's get her in the air. We press spacebar and activate our solid fuel stage. Now these are kind of close, so we'll probably see overheating here. Yeah, and as they overheat, they get hotter and hotter and hotter, and eventually some will explode if they get too hot. Now, those exploded, and I detached that stage, but its own thrust is still holding it under us and keeping it attached. Now, see, it's done. And you can see the stabilizers are having a bit of trouble with it. Now, this is overheating because it's kind of sitting on its own thrust, but it's not going to overheat to the point where it's going to blow up before it's done. You can see our atmospheric speed is continuing to climb. Our altitude continues to climb. We're over 10,000 now. So at 10,000, I like to angle over like this and change our thrust vector. Why are we doing this? Because we want to convert our velocity upwards into lateral velocity so we can obtain an orbit while not fighting so much atmosphere. The atmosphere is thinner up here, and so it allows us to actually move more freely. As you can see, we're accelerating rather rapidly. Now, if I hit M, we're out here, and you can see that we have our apoapsis is ahead of us about 22 seconds, and it's climbing and climbing and climbing. I want to make sure this is at least 30,000, because you're still in the atmosphere. You're still really in the atmosphere up to about 70,000. But you'll really start seeing re-entry effects when you hit 30,000. Now, I don't know what that explosion was. We can still get crew reports from here. because we're generating power, I can beam that back right now. And crew reports can be beamed back for 100% efficiency, so I don't have to take those back to get the most out of them. You can see our liquid fuel is depleting here. Now I'm going to kill the engine by hitting X. As you can see, our apoapsis is now way out here at 72,000 feet. 72,000 meters, and it's going to be a minute ahead of us. Now I can accelerate up, so we don't have to wait for it. We're going to ride our velocity up to the peak. I want to get kind of close to it, but I don't want to get all the way there because it is only 72,000, so I want to start firing my thruster before we get up there. Once we're approaching the peak, yeah, we're at 70,000 now. As you can see, we are now basically in space. Mystery goo, let's get a sample. We have 10 science from that one, we're going to keep it. We need a crew report. Yep, we're in space. I can do an EVA because we're not thrusting. We'll grab that and we'll get back in. Now I'm going to orientate the craft so we can achieve an orbit by doing this effectively. Now see here, this is where the Q and E come in, and I like to keep it oriented so I have an excellent idea where I am in relation to the Kerbal globe at the moment. Okay, so this yellow thing here is our forward velocity vector, and there's an opposite one on the other side, which I will be showing you eventually again. But right now I want to make sure I activate my... Oh, see, this is something that you can definitely do. You can do a mistake. Oh, I just detached the rocket from the craft. We are now going to re-enter. But it's not a disaster because we got the science what we wanted to get. Oh, Rob. Do be careful. So we'll accelerate downwards because you don't want to spend forever watching this. Unfortunately, we have a maximum acceleration while we're in the atmosphere of 4 times. Now that we're inside 30,000, you can see our re-entry effects are happening. And I'm going to spin the capsule around because it's not necessary. You won't burn up. But I like to do this because it's good practice. Yeah, that's the same crew report we had from before. I can only store 1 of each crew report. There we go. Now I can store that one. We're below 10,000 meters, so I can hit the parachute. And I'll turn off the SAS by hitting T, so it's not fighting the parachute. And as you can see, it's just kind of rocking on the tether. If I hit C, we can get a look from the inside. You can see, ooh, look, bit of atmosphere. I'm going to hit X to kill the thruster, even though it's not attached, because it will not allow us to get out of this and recover it, as long as it thinks that the thruster is running. If you're wondering what that bright patch is, that's actually the reflection of the sun and the moon. Because you can see the sun's coming down there, and the moon's up there, and that's actually just kind of combined to make this a bit of a bright spot for us. It's an atmospheric effect, as it were. But there's our thruster just hitting the water and exploding. And as we hit below 500 meters, our parachute opens properly. Now we can accelerate if we want to, because it won't rip the parachute off. If we had done that when parachute deployment had happened, sometimes the physics engine rips the parachute off and we die. Which wastes a lot of effort and time. Okay, we're down. And we're in the water. and as you can see, we still have some power, so I can get a crew report from here in the water. It says we're flying over the water. We're not, but we already got a flying over the water report. I can rotate the craft in the water like this, so I can do an EVA, and I'm going to let go. Why am I doing that? Because I can get a report from Kerbin's water. And because the craft has rotated, I can't get to the door now, unfortunately. Kerbins are kind of floaty and light, so you can't get below the water. That's okay, we can recover him immediately, and then recover the craft. The Kerbin's on the surface of the planet, so you can just get him back anytime we want. Here we go with his report, EVA from the water. And I'll go to the Science Center. I go to the Space Center. Here you see first rocket, it's splashed down here in the ocean, and we can recover that. And we've collected 44 science. 26 just from recovering that craft. So that's a good start. And that allows us to do more things in the Science Center. Here we have general rocketry, which gives us some different boosters and a different engine. Here we have stability, which gives us our first winglet and radial decoupler and a nose cone. And here we have survivability, which gives us a smaller engine, landing legs, and radial mount parachutes, which will come in handy. All three of these things are very much worth your time. We have enough science to unlock 2 of them. Radial decouplers are nice, and we'll play into what we want to show you. And let's see, I will go with survivability. Yes. Okay. Right. Oh, it was so nice making a mistake and showing you just how I can screw up so simply in live while filming live. Let's take you through the aerospace a little. Right, so here's the aerospace vehicle assembly building, and it's a little different in that things are orientated this way. Okay? Now, there isn't much we can do here at the moment because we don't have much in the way of components, but what we can try to do is make this make a kind of lightweight craft. I mean, you'll probably be amused. Symmetry is the thing. You're gonna need it badly. And it's important to have your lift kind of back. Now, if I angle the wings up slightly, it makes it more stable. But actually, I'm probably going to need extra winglets anyway, just to, like, get it off the ground. And yeah, I know, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense designing like this, but honestly, that's kind of how the game works. As a special way thing, let's stick the parachute on here like that, and stick our radio on. Now this thing will have almost no fuel, but that's okay. And just so we have something to land on, I'm just going to use this girder segment. Actually, where is my center weight and lift? Okay, yeah, center lift's a bit behind the center of mass, so that's going to be okay. It's not going to be flipping around all over the place. So, in fact, adding that girder is just going to make it even more front heavy. So we're going to not do that. What we will do is just rotate the craft so it sits on its tail. Now, let's take her out. Now this fairly derpy looking airplane, which is not a airplane at all, it's a rocket plane, okay? Has a liquid fuel engine, so we're going to need to activate that. You may want to put on a stabilizer for this kind of thing. You may not want to. As you can see, everything's on the same stage at the moment, so we really do need to fix that. You can fix that at any time by just like doing this. Okay, we picked up the hit the plus to add new stage, and then we drop the engine down into here. Okay, we're on the tarmac. And get a crew report from the tarmac. I'm going to send that back. Right, and let's go and take off. As you can see, our thrust isn't enough to lift our craft. Turning up the engine changes that. Now, because these winglets don't have any control surfaces, I'm relying entirely on the gyro to control the craft. Thing is, with this, it flies almost as well upside down as it does right side up. As you can see, it is difficult to control without any actual control surfaces. And in actuality, oh, there we go. And see, I've going to manage to rip my engine off, my parachute off, and crash into the ground. And you can go back to launch and save your Kerbal. But you can see how even this really stupid design really actually can fly. Okay? So, have fun with it. Figure it out. It's great to do that kind of thing. I have crashed I don't know how many planes. But I actually do have designs that work. I haven't shown you yet. And this thing here is just a derpy little stupid thing. As you can see, there's no control surfaces on this thing. It's just winglets that for lift. It is literally a small fuel tank, a small engine, and a bunch of winglets. Okay? And because I didn't set up the other stage, I have my own little drag device of pulling my parachute around with me. Let's say you do this by accident. You can cut the parachute. It's very difficult to control without any control surfaces. If you really want to be playing with planes, unlock some more of the aerospace components. Enough of that. Right, so instead of me just messing around, I think on the next part I'm going to take you a bit more seriously into space. But that you got to see some stuff there. Hope you enjoyed the video. Do come back next time when I'm actually going to take you successfully into orbit and show you a bit more about maneuvering. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching, folks. Goodbye.